Hey, how's it going? Michael Watkins here, and in the art of practicing social distancing during this time, I have some helpers. We're all working from home today. I'd like to introduce Mr. Beckett Watkins and Miss Marley Watkins, and they're going to be helping me walk through this video today. And what I wanted to share with you is a common question I get whenever I sit down with a prospect or a client the first time. We usually address two things first off, but the first one is always, am I covered for that? Meaning, do I have enough coverage in place? If something were to happen to me or foundationally happen, like how does my asset model look? What happens to my family? Are all my plans going to continue to go forward as planned, or are there going to be a bunch of obstacles that I've left them with? And so that's what I want to do today. Now, whenever we address this question, when we first sit down, we actually do it in two ways. I'm going to show you one today, but the first way is called human life value. And what that is, in layman's terms, if you will, it is a legal term, but human life value is a person's earning potential from now until retirement. And we use that with the time value calculation to estimate what that number looks like. Okay, for instance, the way I like to think of it is if you buy a house for $300,000, what do you insure the house for? At least $300,000, right? And that's what we're trying to figure out. Am I overinsured? Am I underinsured? What does my number look like? It's my office, or at my office, we firmly believe every person has the right to be insured up to that human life value. And that's when we sit down. Again, it's a little more complex than what this video is going to show you, but what I wanted to work with you on today was how you could, while you're sitting at home social distancing, you could calculate your own number based on a little acrostic, if you will, like we do here. And I'm going to walk you through it, and I have my helpers here to help us calculate some of those numbers, okay? So, hey, you guys ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you can see on the board here, I have how much coverage do I really need? Obviously, that's what we're going to address. LIFE. We're in the life insurance game here, people, so stay with me, all right? L is simply for loans or liabilities is the way I like to put at it. And what we're going to put here is if you think back and think about what you owe across the board, okay? So that could be house, it could be cards, it could be student loans, it could be credit cards. And we're not looking for the exact number, but we're looking for a broad stroke estimate, if you will, okay? So Beckett's gonna help me out here. I just did kind of a scenario. This doesn't represent anyone, but let's say, you have $2,000 in a credit card bill. So $2,000, got it?
Yep.
Person also owes, $10,000 plus $10,000 on their cars. Okay? And then let's say they got a house and they still owe, they've paid on it for a while, but they still owe about $150,000 on their house. So plus $150,000.
Okay.
What does that total out to?
162,000.
162,000. Please scoot up just a second. So 162,000 is what we put. Again, broad stroke. If I'm going to write a check today and wipe off all the debt, I need to write a check for 162,000. Okay. Second one, I is for income. So we're going to assume this person got a good job, good career going. Let's say they roughly make $75,000 per year. Now, one second. Whenever we look at income, we don't just want to replace 1 year's worth of income. If you think about it, if you're no longer here to make that, and you're a two-income household, you need to give your family time, not only to grieve and get through everything, but also bills continue to come in, plans continue to move forward. So when I ask people this, I'm like, how many years are important to you to make sure you have dog years left back for your family? The most common answer I hear is 3 to 5 years. Typically that depends on the ages of their kids. But let's say it's 5 years they answered this time. So Mr. Beckett, 75,000 times 5.
75,000 times 5 equals 375,000.
Okay, so we're going to replace this individual's income for 5 years, 375,000 total. So once we get here to F, I'm going to go ahead and write it in there. F stands for final expenses, but most people don't realize It can vary state to state, but Oklahoma, the average final expenses are 30 grand. So we're gonna put 30 there. Last one is E. That's for education, okay? You can also think of it as legacy if you have a legacy you wanna leave back for people. Now, current numbers in Oklahoma, if you're gonna send your child to a state school, say at Oklahoma or University of Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, it's roughly $106,000 per child. My kids are pretty young. It's only going to go up from there. But let's say that you have 2 kids or 1 kid. If you have 2 kids, you're like, hey, we have some other stuff set up, maybe some 529s on the side or whatever, but we want to partially fund their college education with this if needed. So we're going to say we're going to put just $100,000 in right here. And that way, if you have 1 kid, you're roughly, paying for the 4-year degree out of this. Or if you have 2 kids, you're partially funding it if you need to, if you're no longer here, and using the other 529s and whatever else you have set up. So, all right, Mr. Beckett.
Yep.
So now we have our numbers. Mm-hmm. We have to add all these together to find out what coverage you need. So we're going to start with $162,000.
Yes, sir.
Plus $375,000. Plus 30,000. See, we're doing math during social distancing, people. Did you get that one? Plus 100,000. What's your total?
667,000.
All right. So, in order to maintain a current lifestyle and make sure all your financial obligations are met in the event that you get hit by what I call the proverbial bus and you are no longer here to make that income and protect your family, you would need $667,000 of coverage. I'm going to take it a step further, okay? Because like I said earlier, you always want to know, am I overinsured? Am I underinsured? What's that fine line? Let's say you work for a great company and they actually offer you 2 years of salary, which a lot of people I work with have a group term type policy from work. There's some ins and outs on that I'm not going to get into on this video, but let's say you're still working at that company, the coverage is in place, they give you 2 years salary, which as we know, your salary is $75,000 a year. So we're going to take out $150,000. Do you have 667 still pulled up?
Yep.
Minus 150.
Minus 150,000.
Equals
570,000.
Equals 517,000. So by just walking through this, we established that you need, $517,000 of additional insurance. This is the gap. So right now you have $150,000 through work. Your assets, liabilities, and plans require $667,000 of coverage if you're no longer here to make that money. So the gap between the two is $517,000. That's where I would start with all my clients. How do we address this gap? We can do all the future planning, programming, and strategies based on that, but foundationally, we have to get this in place first, and there's a lot of different ways we can do that to make sure your family is protected. So I hope this was informative. Hope it was fun. I almost knocked over the board right there. We're going to close it out. If you would like to learn a little bit more or go in more detail about your coverage and so specifically and find out what your number really is, there's a link below this video. Click it, fill out your email and phone number. My office will give you a shout and we'll set up just a conversation. Okay? We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.